Hey everybody, happy Sunday. It's been 3 weeks and 2 days since your mom passed away. It's really been an intense time.
The first 12 days were really, really rough. And I just allowed myself to kind of go through whatever I was going through. Those first 12 days actually hit me harder than I thought they would. I guess I was expecting myself to be sort of numb initially, because people have always said that, you're sort of numb initially, and that's what I was expecting. But I wasn't. It was really hard for me the first 12 days. And then something shifted. And so I guess, that's what I wanted to share with people is it was weird because then all of a sudden people were like, gosh, you're handling this so well, which first of all, I want to point out, when people say to someone who is in a bad situation, wow, you're really handling this really well, they're not always handling it as well as you think. I know people said that to me when I had cancer when I was young, and I wasn't handling it well at all. And I thought to myself, well, what would I look like if I wasn't handling it well? Just because people don't look like they're falling apart doesn't mean that they're having, they're handling it well. But in this case, I actually did make this weird shift, and it happened just before her memorial and during sort of around the time of her memorial. I started talking to my mom, so plug your ears. I started talking to my mom and praying a lot, and I began to honestly actually not visualize I can see her not in pain and whatever. No, I actually felt her. I feel her. Actually feel this sort of essence of her, I guess. And I know that sounds kind of crazy, but I see her.
I don't think so. I think a lot of people feel that because one, she's part of you.
Yeah.
And she lives in virtually every fun and every scary part of your brain. And we believe it doesn't stop with death. And what was it, the day before she passed or right afterwards that we watched the movie?
It was after I had this experience. It was, so I was having this experience of, I feel her, and that's what caused me to shift a little bit was I'm like, oh, I felt less sad when I could feel her. My mom had sort of an exciting, amazing life, but not a peaceful life. And so she was sort of never at peace. It was sort of more chaotic and her energy was very intense. And all of a sudden I felt her completely at peace. And she was just she was definitely with the Lord, and she was just surrounded, and she was serene is the word. There's not.
Oh, I know it was. It was right before her
memorial. That's when it was.
That someone had asked me to be involved in a documentary. And I'm like, well, what else have you done? And they had done a documentary called After Death. And when I was young, 1980, so 40 years ago, I read a book by Ray Moody called Life After Life. And after I read that book, never afraid of death again. And so when I'm talking to these documentary makers, they said Ray Moody was, the focus of that documentary. And so for work, I'm watching the documentary, just love it. And I said, hey, Tana, you should watch this.
And I didn't know if I wanted to because, it hits a little close to home right now. But what's interesting is I actually really enjoyed it because it confirmed what I was feeling. And it really confirmed what I was feeling. I could feel her. She was, it's a very trite cliche that people say you shouldn't say when someone's in grief, she's not in pain anymore. But my mom was in a lot of pain before she died, a lot of excruciating pain. And she's not in pain anymore. But I could feel she was beyond this, not in pain anymore. She had this serenity around her, and she was just, I don't even know that there's a word that I can use to describe it. It's just this beautiful peace around her, and just otherworldly, ethereal almost. And so I felt that. And so when I watched that movie with you, I could feel that, and it confirmed that for me. And so, but what's interesting is you still should be a little bit afraid because 23% of the people in the movie actually experienced hell. So I'm not sure you should be completely unafraid.
So After Death is about near-death experiences, and now quite a bit of science around near-death experiences. And I've had lots of patients who've had near-death experiences, and very weird. at the memorial. So we had the memorial. It was lovely. It was beautiful. Tana did an amazing job. And then when we came home, we also had a group of friends, and we had the anti-funeral. So the funeral
we told the stories you can't tell in church that were fun.
Right. It's like you tell the truth, because if you want to grieve properly, you have to hold how wonderful people are, and also how colorful or how traumatizing people are. But one of our guests, when we were talking about after death, he said, that happened to me when I was 16. I was in an accident with my brother, and I separated from my body, and I was actually watching people and able to tell them afterwards what was going on, even though I was in a coma. So I thought it was just fascinating. And all of our lives, we have been believers. And when you believe that you just don't die with your body, there's a sense of peace, and it really is very helpful for grief.
Yeah, it really helped me. So it's interesting, because I was like, I couldn't not cry for the first 12 days. Like, I was just so heavy, and all I was doing was crying, and I allowed myself to feel that and experience it. I know better than to block it, but it was just a really heavy time. And then it shifted when I really felt this with her. And I still talk to her, and I still pray, and I pray, and I talk to God, and I talk to her, and but I'm having a harder time feeling that deep sadness. I feel the feeling of missing her, so that I feel a little bit of sadness for me, but I'm having a really hard time feeling that intense sadness that I felt initially, because I have this deep sense of peace. I know what I feel. You know what it feels like? It feels like when you're going to meet someone on vacation. That's what it feels like. It feels like she left to go on a vacation that we're all going to meet her at. And it doesn't feel like she's gone. It feels like she's just somewhere waiting for us. So as opposed to like this like definite ending, it feels like she's just went somewhere ahead of us and she's waiting.
Well, and then when you go to sort of take care of their house and their things and things.
Yeah, that brought up a whole lot of stuff.
Brings it all back, and it brings your childhood.
My childhood back.
Right?
Yeah.
It brings your grandparents.
So I'm making sure that I'm preemptively doing therapy. I love EMDR. Because if anyone who's read my book, The Relentless Courage of a Scared Child, there's a lot of stuff from my past. And going through your parents' things, you don't even realize like how much history that there is. My mom kept everything. And so there's a lot of history there. And so, I'm preemptively doing some.
Re-traumatize.
Oh, it's triggering.
As you go through the decades and incidences. So getting help during this time. And one of my patients once told me, so she lost her 12-year-old daughter, Sammy, to bone cancer, and then just went into a terrible spiral. On the 2-year anniversary of Sammy's death, she had planned to kill herself. And she saw me late one night on public television, and she goes, I like Dr. Amen. I'm going to go buy his book. And if it's a bad book, I'll kill myself tomorrow. My God. She said, but I love the book, and I've already lost 24 pounds. She had ballooned up to over 200 pounds. And she said, I want you to tell people not to let grief be your excuse to hurt yourself.
Which I started to do while I was taking care of her. And so I got my numbers checked, and they weren't very good. My cortisol was off the charts. Hemoglobin A1C was creeping up because I was exhausted. You're exhausted both physically, emotionally. You're just depleted. And so I was worn down. I didn't have any reserve left. And so my hemoglobin A1C was creeping up. Cholesterol was creeping up. Cortisol's off the charts. And so I made sure, like, I looked at that and I asked myself, you got to know your why or you won't do your what. And so I was like, I'm not going to use this as my excuse, because I don't want my family to go through what I just went through. So.
Absolutely not. You better not go anywhere. Anyways, we hope this is helpful to you. Have a great day, everybody.